Welcome back to our live coverage of Day 2 of the 2020 NFL Draft. I'm Chiefs reporter BJ Kissel, joined this time again, just like we did last night, by voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus. Mitch, a lot of fun last night. We've had some fun today. The Chiefs made a selection earlier. We'll break that down, but overall, how do you feel about the draft as a whole so far here on Friday?
Well, first of all, I love the pre-show, and I want to talk to Whit Merrifield, too, about two-strike hitting. But honestly, this thing was spurts. The second round just became these spurts, like a safety spurt. And then it was another wide receiver spurt. And then it was an edge rusher spurt. And I know we're excited about our pick in the second round. And it looks like the Raiders are going to select 15 wide receivers in this draft. So that'll be a record.
Yeah, it's definitely something that they had a focus on coming into this draft. But right now, we just want to remind everybody that this live stream is brought to you by Park University. In just a few short weeks, our world has changed. Now change the way you learn with online classes at Park University. Park has been teaching online for 25 years. Apply now for the summer term beginning June 8th. Park University, the official higher education partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, Mitch, let's get into breaking down the Chiefs selection at number 63 overall in Mississippi State linebacker Willie Gay Jr. This is a guy that you and I had discussed last night and over the past couple of weeks as just one of those athletic linebackers, that new age NFL linebacker, and you could tell that everybody was excited to get him into the building.
It's what the NFL has become, BJ. It's these hybrid guys. Is it a safety? Is it a corner? Well, yeah, he's both and maybe neither. I mean, and these linebackers now, it's like when I was talking to Donnie Edwards, we had our look back. I said, dude, you should have been born 10 years later. Willie Gay's explosive. He reminds me of Derek Johnson. I got to be careful of these comparisons, but when I watch him on video, wow, he gets from point A to point B quickly. There was an electric pick six he had against Kentucky. And when you see him react, and like against Alabama on that tape, he's got NFL speed. His 40 time is crazy at 4.46. He's right there with Clyde Edwards-Helaire actually in 40 time. So this is an impressive impact player.
Yeah, when you look at Pro Football Focus and their grades, he had the highest coverage grade of any player at any position in this draft, and said he's the fastest off-ball linebacker in this draft. So it's fun to watch his film, just like we watched Clyde Edwards-Helaire earlier. When you flip on the film of Willie Gay Jr., what you see is a guy who's 6'1", 243 pounds, and comes downhill with some bad intentions. We already spoke with the local media. I had a chance to hop on that call and ask him about it, and the guy just loves getting after it. He loves being an energy giver. You and I both know that's something that Coach Reed talks about all the time. And I had a chance to ask him just, where did the passion of this game come from for you? When you step across the white lines, what is it about this sport, this competitive nature that kind of gets you fired up? And the guys kind of respond to him. His teammates responded to him. And that was one of the things that our coaches and scouts figured out in going through the background process and figuring out about him, what makes him tick. And he told me that, in high school, he learned, the competition, getting after it. And then the brotherhood in the locker room was something that was really special to him as well. But you look at the ability that he's got in over a 90.0 PFF coverage grade last year. You talk about it. His ability, we saw in going through some of those highlights, a pick six against, I believe, Tua Tagovailoa from Alabama. So, yeah, it's definitely one of those guys that a position you knew they were going to attack at some point with all the sub packages. And this is definitely that new age NFL linebacker, Mitch, that you and I have talked about for years.
We love to talk about Andy Reid and his imagination on offense. What we learned is how imaginative Steve Spagnuolo is on defense. And he can use that imagination with this player. Willie Gay Jr., I tell you what I like maybe most of all about him. I love the pick sixes and his explosive coverage abilities. And he looks like a good zone cover guy, is his ability to play wide receiver screens. That has become an art form, either, the bubble screen, these quick screens are running to the running backs, and he's awesome at it. And when you look what he did against Alabama, in particular when he was playing those, that jumps off the screen and gives Spags a tool to use in his defense imaginably.
Yeah, I had a chance to hop on that call with Coach Reed after the pick as well and figure out what Coach Reed saw in Willie Gay Jr. And he was asked specifically about Steve Spagnuolo and kind of what his thoughts were. And said Spags obviously loved Willie, but he really mentioned and got into it saying that the Chiefs linebackers coach, Matt House, was familiar with all the coaches who have developed Willie Gay Jr. in college, and that connection and those relationships were really helpful in going through this process. They also said that Britt Reed and Matt House, that this was their number one guy. This was their top target as that move linebacker to get in there. And Coach Reed said that he talked to Dan Mullen, the old head coach at Mississippi State, who's now down at the University of Florida, and to figure out what makes this kid tick. And they liked what they saw. You could see it when you flip on the film. And in talking with him, he answered a lot of questions. He was asked a lot of questions about his time in Starkville from the local media. He asked that, and seemed like a good, quiet, kind of mild-mannered guy. But yeah, it was. It should be a whole lot of fun. He was entertaining on the conference call. That's for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna get into some of the question marks he had. He had a long suspension because of the academic situation on Mississippi State. He wasn't alone. Yep. I think there were like 10 guys in on that. We'll ask Brett about that as well. But when you just look at his game, congratulations to Arizona and getting Isaiah Simmons and Olathe North Eagle. And another corner goes off the board, it looks like, because Cam Dantzler, Mississippi State, Willie Gay Jr.'s old teammate, is now a Minnesota Viking. They need corners. They lost 2 to Cincinnati. But from the standpoint of when you look at Willie Gay Jr. And just his ability to flash and to play, in against the level of competition he played against. The other thing is, BJ, it appeared that he interviewed very well. And I think that was going to be a key issue in evaluation of him, because people knew what was, we had the altercation with the quarterback, maybe getting ready for the bowl game. I mean, we'll ask Brett about that. But the point is, I think those issues calmed down. Now, Isaiah Simmons, if Isaiah Simmons wasn't in this draft, I mean, there's some people Willie Gay Jr. thought was a top 20 pick in this draft. And I think somehow he's kind of overshadowed a little bit just how good and how athletic Isaiah Simmons was.
Yeah, I said that if it wasn't for Isaiah Simmons killing the combine, that Willie Gay Jr. would have been the story of the combine. And we've got his athletic profile, again, courtesy of the Pro Football Focus draft guide. But you look at these numbers over here, and you look at these splits. You look at his 4.46 40-yard dash in the 98th percentile. You see his 10-yard split in the 99th percentile. His broad jump in the 99th percentile. I mean, we are talking about a phenomenal athlete. And Mitch, you and I have talked so much about, sub-package defenses and the way that Steve Spagnuolo utilizes guys like Daniel Sorensen as that kind of third safety and that big safety, the big nickel, whatever you want to call the different packages they run. And a guy like Ben Neiman, who played about 400 snaps, which isn't bad. It's about, I want to say about 40% of the snap, 50% of the snaps, but playing it as that dime linebacker role. I mean, that's not a starting position, but that's definitely one of those you find that role. And that kind of seems like maybe that's the kind of role that he'll fit. And I know Dave Tobe is going to love a guy who's 6'1", 240 and can run like this. And especially a guy who loves and is looking for contact. But you look at what happened with the Chiefs this offseason in their roster. You look at guys like Darren Lee and Reggie Ragland, signing with the Lions. I think Darren Lee is still a free agent. But those guys combined to play 398 snaps last year. So those snaps and that production, and I always look at snaps as production and value because you're out on the field providing those snaps and that value. But they've got to figure out a place to kind of gobble up those snaps. And whether it's Willie Gay Jr., one of the other guys, a guy like Darius Harris, another young player that they picked up last year as an undrafted free agent that we know they like. But I'm interested to see when we get to training camp. And this is maybe getting a little ahead of our skis, but we always talk about like the OLDL one-on-one drills. And we talked about watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire and the one-on-one drills. Can you imagine going to watch at training camp the one-on-one drills with this cat in coverage and Clyde Edwards-Helaire coming out of the backfield? That's going to be a whole lot of fun to watch for everybody coming up to camp. Hopefully it goes off without a hitch.
Well, a couple of things, and dovetail off your special teams comment with Tobe. This kid's just a superb athlete, right? Superb. But you think of Dorian O'Daniel and his emergence toward the end of last year too, and especially on special teams, what he was able to do. But the thing I love about Willie Gay Jr. and why it reminds me of DJ, Derek Johnson, is one, he's a tackler. This tackler he can be a high volume tackler, but he is a ball hawk. DJ had great ball skills. Think about his 2 pick sixes in one game against Denver. I think about DJ's pick six against 55 yards against the Jets when he was running out of oxygen. He had a pick six against Jacksonville in 2010. Well, this guy does that. I mean, in his last 9 games, Willie Gay Jr. at Mississippi State, a pick, forced fumble recovery. He's around the ball, and he's one of those guys, the ball finds him, he finds the ball. And there's some big plays with this guy coming up for the Chiefs defense.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. They talked about, during the pre-draft process, he's from such a small town outside of Starkville, Mississippi, that he had to drive into town to get enough service to do the video calls with the NFL teams. And the Chiefs had a few different calls with him, but he's got to leave his house, drive into town to get just good enough service. We just had the conference call with him. It was kind of spotty just because from a small town. But what we want to do right now, I want to throw it to the comment section. Let us know, fans, what were your thoughts when you've gone and watched some of the highlights of Willie Gay Jr. And it's one of those positions that was popular amongst Chiefs fans and outsiders as far as, they want the Chiefs to add some linebackers. And they added one. And not only did they add one, they added the most athletic one out there and a guy that provides energy to his team, like we said, that Coach Reed loves. But right now, we're going to throw it to a package. Our great video team did a phenomenal job putting this together very, very quickly. So right now, let's take a look at that call when Willie Gay Jr. find out he was going to be the newest member of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Hey, Willie.
Yes, sir.
Great to meet you.
Yes, sir. Nice to meet you too.
We're so excited to have you as a Kansas City Chief.
Man, I thank you so much. I'm so grateful, man, and blessed. I appreciate it.
You're joining an outstanding team, and we've got some of the best coaches in the business.
Yes, sir. I can't help but to be the best around people like that.
Well, I'm going to hand you off to Andy now.
Sir.
Willie, are you in your car?
Yes, sir. I had to get in the car. My family is acting a fool right now.
All right. Brett Veatch, our general manager, is going to holler at you real quick here.
How you doing, bud?
Sir. Yes.
We're super fired up. We've had a lot of success with players from Mississippi State, and
yes, sir.
You're gonna follow in line. The first text I got after we turned your name in was from Tyrann Mathieu, and he said, "I want his number right now." So,
oh man!
So when we get off the phone here, I'm gonna shoot you his number, man. Make sure you holler at him, all right?
Yes, sir. I will right now. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Before you jump on, just real quick, let Mark holler at him real quick. This is our president, Willie.
Man, we're still
it's all good.
Part of this team and bringing out
I thank you so much. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Can't wait to have you in Kansas City, man.
Oh, it's gonna be wonderful. Yes, sir.
Willie, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm excellent. Great.
Appreciate you making that trip downtown again. Look, you're going to hear me talking to you a lot, so I ain't going to talk very much. We had those visits on the video before, but just want you to enjoy it tonight. I look forward to it when we get together in Kansas City, okay?
Oh, yes, sir. It's going to be great.
Willie,
what's up, Coach?
It's great to have you as a part of the team, man.
Man, I'm ready, man. I'm ready now.
Yeah, I can't wait to get to work.
Yes, sir.
Really, really excited, and we'll be talking a lot here in the next couple days.
Okay, so
yes, sir. I just encourage you to enjoy it. Yeah, enjoy it, man.
Willie, good to see you, man.
Yes, sir. Nice to see you. How you doing?
I'm happy we got you.
Man, I'm more excited, man. I'm about to explode right now.
Listen, you were these guys' number one pick for the linebacker position, so they're all very excited to have you and get you part of this organization.
Sure.
Listen, congratulations, man. Enjoy the moment.
Thank you so much, Coach. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you betcha, man.
And who better to bring on to talk about a speedy linebacker than Sean Barber, a speedy linebacker who played for the Chiefs and Eagles and the Redskins. Sean, we appreciate you joining us, man. How's it going tonight?
Hey, man, going great. As we see the draft is progressing as we thought. The Chiefs make another outstanding pick with their round 2 addition, Willie Gay Jr., guy at Mississippi State, sideline to sideline playmaker, ferocious on and off the field. Sometimes, gets a little heated, But that's football, man. Sometimes you got to just you got to go out there and make plays, and he lets his pads do all the talking.
Yeah, this is going to be another one of those times. Anybody who tuned in to the show last night, that our heads are on a swivel. We are trying to stay updated with what's going on. And again, please continue to let us know what you're thinking in the comment section, not only about Willie Gay Jr., but also about what the Chiefs might do. We're 4 or 5 picks away, which if my math serves me correct, maybe 20, 25 minutes from right now, if everything goes to plan. But let us know what you're thinking. We'll share some of those comments and some of those names here during the broadcast. But guys, so far, let's just talk about the draft as a whole. As we get ready for this Chiefs pick, what surprised you, Mitch, so far about this round, other than you mentioned earlier the Raiders taking 78 wide receivers?
Well, we started to see some offensive linemen come off, too. You know, I was thinking, wow, the centers are still there. And what was going on with Lloyd Cushenberry of LSU? As soon as I said that, I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
As soon as I said that, literally, Denver takes him. And I think that's a good pickup by Denver. You watch his tape. So you're seeing some starting offensive linemen come off the board here as well. And then locally, Jordan Elliott of Mizzou finally goes. He goes to Cleveland after a trade with them. But it just shows you the depth of this draft. I mean, there's starters in this third round that you'll see them all over week 1 on teams.
Yeah, this looks like it's going to be one of those sweet spots you talked about, whether it's Lloyd Cushenberry, a guy that we talked about with Will Shields yesterday, because I ran into Will Shields up at the Combine in Indy because he serves with the Legends, and he kind of falls around different groups. And he had mentioned by name Lloyd Cushenberry as a guy that impressed him. So it's disappointing to see a guy that somebody like Will Shields spoke so highly of to be within the division. So we're not rooting for him necessarily anymore as he lines up next to Dalton Reisner over there. But, offensive line. That's an area that we talked about before. It means a lot to Andy Reid, an offensive line aficionado. And you look at the Chiefs roster, you can never have enough good players available there. Sean, what would you think about the Chiefs going to offensive line, whether it's interior or maybe one of those tackles?
Well, anybody that followed us during the pre or the walk up to the draft realized that I was sending out a picture of our Chiefs O-line. Anytime anybody asked me what I think the Chiefs should do, I just kept sending out that All-American Hall of Fame offensive line with Willie Rofe and Will Shields and Casey Wigman, John Tate, and those guys. If somehow we can start to recreate that feel and that drama in that room of protect Pat Mahomes at all costs, we know that everything we do with this, it begins and ends with Pat Mahomes. He's such a special quarterback. We got to protect him. We got to create a wall, give him time for plays like the Wasp.
Yeah. You take a 9-step drop out of shotgun, you don't really need an offensive line. You're just buying as much time as you possibly can. Mitch, what do you feel? Like, I don't think fans could be upset if you use any asset, any resource, whether it's big money in free agency or if it's a draft pick, even one in the second, third round, on an offensive line protecting your franchise quarterback.
No, and there's some good linemen still on the board. John Simpson at Clemson was the highest rated guard coming into this draft, and he's still there. Interestingly, so is Tyree Phillips out of Mississippi State, another Willie Gay Jr. Teammate who some think he could be a starter right away. Shane Lemieux of Oregon. The tackles, Lucas Niang of TCU is an interesting guy. Coach Patterson's program cranks out NFL guys. We've seen Rager go already in this draft. The corner's already got Gladney. But there's a mentality. We talk about mentalities of programs. If you get a lineman out of TCU, you're going to get kind of an edgy guy, good edgy guy who's well coached because Coach Patterson has a very NFL-style approach, and TCU guys usually do well in the league. See LaDainian Tomlinson.
We got some comments from the comment section. Sean Collier says cornerback for sure. I can feel it. Some good cornerbacks available. Mitch, you mentioned Amik Robertson, maybe one of the most fun cornerbacks to watch. He's just 5'8", 187, but that guy, kind of like Honey Badger in college, kind of like just goes after the ball, gets after it, gets up in your face. Little guy, big heart, I think is what they call. Sean, you're nodding your head. That must be one of those guys that you like.
Well, I just look at guys in the first and second round is really important. You want guys with high floors. You don't want to be swinging and missing for the fences in the first 2 rounds. But now you get into the third and fourth round. I mean, potential out the roof. Let's get guys that have the potential of being All-American, All-Pro, Hall of Fame type guys that, for whatever reason, you see the skill level there. Even if they didn't have the technique, maybe they, you look at their coaching staff, they wasn't coached to do the mirror the right way, and they was opening man coverage the wrong way. Sometimes the guys might just have the skills and just wasn't received the fine tuning by the coaching staff. So if guys possess those type of skill sets, hey man, let's bring them on board, bring them to the kingdom, and let Coach Spags get a hold of those defenses and see if they can run with some big dogs.
Guys, it's funny. We spent this entire time leading up to the draft talking about the depth of the Chiefs roster, and they returned 20 of 22 starters. And they don't necessarily have to get anybody who's going to make an impact right away. And they go out and get a running back who it seems like is going to make some kind of an impact right away. And they go out and get a linebacker who could be one of those guys who competes for those sub-package roles right away, kind of throwing it back in all of our faces. You said maybe they get somebody who's got a redshirt year, kind of thinking for the future. And maybe that's what they do with this next pick. Maybe it's not a guy who you necessarily think is going to play right away. Maybe it's a developmental guy who sits for a year and is ready to go 2-3 years down the road, but never put it past Brett Veatch or Andy Reid to get somebody who could help right away. But yeah, they're in a good spot right now. Again, some good players available. Some of these guys were projected to go a lot higher than they are right now, and they obviously will be.
Another guy to talk about there is Bryce Hall of Virginia. He was linked to the Chiefs 2 months ago. His relationship with Juan Thornhill, Juan even commented on it publicly, and he's one of those safety kind of corner hybrid guys. I know he's had some injury issues, but you talk about an immediate impact. To your point, he's a guy that could help you in one way, shape, or form. We talk about 20 to 22 starters coming back. We really need to say 20 of 23 because Kendall Fuller, that nickel guy, it really in essence is a starter. And so
right.
Robertson or Hall might be filling in that gap.
Yeah, Bryce Hall has 37 forced incompletions over the last 2 seasons. That's the third most in college football, and his coverage grade was 5th best in this class. And what Brett Veatch told us last week, he told me on our podcast, like that there was depth at the cornerback position in this draft. He felt like there was depth at the offensive line in this draft, and obviously depth at wide receiver. And we haven't really talked a whole lot about wide receiver. There's some of those guys available. We've seen a little bit of a run on those guys in this draft, but even a guy from a small school like Antonio Gandy-Golden from Liberty, a guy who I had a chance to spend some time kind of behind the scenes with him up in Indy at the NFL scouting combine, and this guy just absolutely looks the part. And his highlight film is fun to watch with his ability to go up and high point the ball. And has got better feet, and he's a little quicker than you would expect for a guy at 6'4", over 200 pounds, something like that. He's got good size, and he's got pretty good feet that he showed down at the Senior Bowl too.
I think the one thing we see about this wide receiver group is after the first 4 guys went, that second group, they possess so many of the same trait sets. It was easy for teams to hold back and wait on them. And you saw the Raiders go and draft, like we said, 65 of them. The Denver Broncos go and get a couple of sets to try to give some balance to Cortland Sutton being out there. But all in all, everybody's wide receiver room is trying to emulate the Chiefs. The good thing about us is we already had it set.
Looks like the Tennessee Titans just went with Appalachian State running back Darrington Evans. Looks like they're going with that thunder and lightning. Darrington Evans, an athletic running back. They've got Derrick Henry, I believe, still on the franchise tag. I don't believe he signed an extension. He didn't sign a long-term extension yet, right? He's still on that franchise tag, but you get a guy on what should be a big contract, the way they've kind of built that offense, bringing Ryan Tannehill back and paying him first. But Darrington Evans is one of those guys that he was fun to watch too. He had some juice.
Yeah, kind of a firecracker.
They did take a corner earlier, so.
Yeah. So we've got a few more comments. Bill Chase, we need a tackle on the offensive line. And I'm assuming that you don't mean to start right away because Eric Fisher and Mitch Schwartz, couple of veterans that have been playing really, really well. But putting guys in that room and letting Coach Heck get his hands on those guys, not a bad thing. Cam Betkoff also says, I would be fine with O-line too. And then Ron Gam, Bryce Hall, baby, let's go. So I think there's a lot of Chiefs fans that are excited about Bryce Hall. But right now, we are getting an update that we are on the clock.
I love it.
Fellas, so we're going to add another piece to this roster here in the next few minutes. What are we feeling, fellas? How are we doing?
I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be selfish. I like the Bryce Hall pick, another Virginia boy coming into the area. Though I wear Kansas City on my sleeve, my heart. I was born and raised in Richmond, Virginia. So another UVA Wahoo. Him and Thornhill. The communication would be down from day one. We talked on the podcast how big it is to have that communication level be something that's flawless.
Yeah, I think there's the potential. I think, when you've got Andy Reid as an offensive line aficionado, you've got Brett Veatch who loves to get in the trenches in their first two picks. You take a running back and a linebacker, expect us to be in the trenches on one side. And we talked offensive tackle, it would make a whole lot of sense. And then you've got defensive line that could make some sense as well. But you get as many guys in there as you can. There's some good value with some players that have fallen a little bit more than a lot of people had projected.
And no corner, Darrington Evans, then DeGuara, the tight end out of Cincinnati, goes. So both Amik Robertson, the kid out of Louisiana Tech we talked about, who we loved, high energy guy, could play slot corner, not a super tall guy, but man, he'll rock your world. And then Hall's still there. So both those corners are there now that the Chiefs are on the clock. Yeah, we got that. So, but anyway, both those corners are sitting there, or again, an offensive lineman like Niang of TCU, the tackle, who could come in as a developmental guy and learn. So,
we've got Travis Kelce's former protege there at the University of Cincinnati, and tight end Josiah DeGuara. I think I may have butchered that as well. Add that to the list of names that I cannot pronounce. The tight end goes to the Green Bay Packers. I believe that's the second tight end they brought in. Is they let Jimmy Graham go to the division rival Chicago Bears. But
those tight ends have been, I don't know, they must have, because the evaluation of those guys, Komet went early, the earliest guy, but the guys that were thought to go quick, Troutman of Dayton, Brian of Florida Atlantic, are still there, And so even the Missouri kid, Okuebanam, is also still there. But those guys were thought to be maybe taken off the board. So,
did you just nail that tight end? I just call him Albert O. Did you just nail the Missouri tight end, like very nonchalant, like you're the 9-time broadcaster of the world?
Mike?
You just nailed that.
When I went back and watched his highlights, I saw too many broadcasters going Albert O. That is just a cop-out. You got to go Mike Kelly, the Missouri broadcaster.
I got a list of guys I can send you.
He's going to end up somewhere. Could be a good player. He's just got to be consistent.
There's a handful of guys in this draft whose names that I have no shot.
The only tight end I'm going to even try is Thaddeus Moss. And that's because I love his dad, the Moss man, catching the L84, catching it. So Thaddeus Moss, maybe he'll be the next tight end that comes off the board.
I'll take Adam Troutman just because I know he was one of the top guys. A lot of guys like him, and I can pronounce his name. So I'm okay with that.
Just like Pioneer League guys, Division I non-scholarship guys out of the Pioneer League. We got Drake Bulldog fans on here that are watching us tonight. So I want those guys.
I want those guys with an edge. Those guys that got it out of the mud, as they say. I want those guys.
And Mitch, you talk about it all the time, man. The tight end position could be one for the crock pot. With the way salary cap is going and everything, you never know. We're always looking for a new role for that tight end 2, the tight end 3 tight end sets coming out to open up Andy's playbook. Getting a tight end right here just for the future, it wouldn't be the worst move.
No, and I admire what Pittsburgh did in the mid-second, you guys taking Chase Claypool, because I know he's a wide receiver, but, man, he looks like a move tight end to me, and I could see Pittsburgh. Think what they've done with their tight ends in the past. I can see that doing with him.
Guys, you mentioned all the receivers that the Raiders are taking. The one pick that didn't surprise me, but you kind of see where they were coming from. The Denver Broncos felt like they really wanted Henry Ruggs in the first round. They end up getting Jerry Jeudy, which the best route runner in the draft, according to a lot of different people, is not a bad backup plan. But then they go with KJ Hamler in the second round out of Penn State, who's a 4.27 40-yard dash guy. He's not Henry Ruggs, but is definitely that same kind of skill set that McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, those little fast guys. And now you've got Cortland Sutton. You've got Jerry Jeudy. You've got KJ Hamler. John Elway is going to make sure that he surrounds this young quarterback and Drew Lock with as many weapons as he possibly can.
And it looks like Denver took a defensive tackle, Ajum out of Arkansas, which is, Anna Tobkin our fearless leader through all this that you don't see. But she's behind us. Our lives are in her hands, but a good Arkansas Razorback there. But those corners are there, guys. Those corners are there. Niang's there. Once again, it's like last night or the pick earlier tonight. There's lots of choices here for Brett Veatch.
Yeah, I felt bad for just go back to Anna real quick. I felt bad because a lot of the highlights we got from Clyde Edwards-Helaire came in the domination that LSU had against Arkansas. And unfortunately, her and her husband Connor were at that game in Death Valley. I used a lot of B-roll from that game, and I apologized every time I put it in there. All right, Sean, what are you thinking right now?
I'm thinking it should be if it's not a tight end, like you said, go back to the trenches. Let's get an old line. Let's talk up Niang, TCU guy. The thing you talked about what is something about the draft is starting to catch me off guard. It's how some of the franchises seem to be moving on from franchise quarterbacks. You talk about the Packers. You talk about the Eagles drafting Hurts. It's not that they're ready to move on, but they definitely have a backup plan in case their franchise guy decides to, kind of use the leverage against the team. So it's a plan B is in hand for both of those teams.
You just saw it on social media that the Chiefs are on the clock. I don't know where the NFL is, where the broadcast is, and where social media is, and where we are in relation to all the news coming out. But it seems like we should be making a pick here in the next couple of minutes. This is exciting. It's 10:30. I thought it was going to be a little bit later. Quick side note, I think we talked about it last night when we were on the clock about to make a pick. But the NFL, this has gone off very smooth. I think the access has been cool. Not only internally for us, getting to see the calls and all the different position coaches talking to guys, but just in general, like the whole deal, it's been different. I know it's been difficult for everybody, especially the people behind the scenes, technically having to make this work that you don't see, that we get to see, like Anna taking care of all of us. But this has gone off really well. I'm excited to see who we pick. Mitch, I'm with you. I'm thinking this Lucas Niang, the right tackle, could be the guy. And we just got the word. The Chiefs, with the number 96 overall pick in the third round, select TCU right tackle Lucas Niang. Protecting your investment. He is walking into a room that's got a couple of tackles. He is going to be able to learn how to be a professional and spending time around those guys. This is a great fit. This is a great pick right here.
Let's go back to just his technique. I mean, people talk about him being a bear. He's 6'6", 315. But you're talking about enough athleticism to move around in this offense, whether it's tackles, guards, or centers. One requirement, and Barbershop and I talked about this on Defending the Kingdom, you have to move in this offense. And it looks like Niang can do that. And again, he can come into this slowly, right? And think about his room and Fisher in 7 years and Mitchell Schwartz, and now with Mike Remmers, who can also play guard. But he's got a bunch of guys surrounding him, BJ and Shop, that can help him learn how to play as a pro.
Yeah, Shop, as a guy who's in this locker room, just what do you think about it, getting a young player to come into a situation where he's got, like I said, a couple of tackles and an offensive line coach who's known to get the most out of his guys?
I think one of the most important things as a player is you come into an atmosphere and an environment that the Chiefs are creating. It's a championship win now atmosphere. It's not about retooling. It's not about taking a season off to try to see if we can regather the troops. We are rolling and the momentum is going. The train is going. The run it back campaign started the day after the Super Bowl. When we got all those guys, when we started signing guys back, and you heard Veatch saying free agent wise, he just wants to focus on our team we have, bring as many guys back. You could tell the Chiefs were going all in to run it back. And if you got a young guy coming into that environment, it's not about your personality. It's about you adapting to what's already going on. We have a championship mentality. You need to adapt. You need to know how you can contribute and be ready if your turn is called. Next man up mentality.
And just doing some research and just looking through some of these draft guides right now, he's got a really interesting story. Growing up in New York City, I believe, and then moving over to Switzerland for a couple of years before moving back to the States in 2003. He's fluid in French. And then, Mitch, a couple of stats that I know you're absolutely going to love. He never allowed more than 14 total pressures in any season of his career and was called for just 3 penalties in nearly 2,000 offensive snaps. Enrolled at TCU when he was 17 years old And Mitch, here's the one. Did not allow a sack in 3 seasons, and that includes 27 starts for the Horned Frogs before he was shut down midway through last year because of hip surgery that we will ask Brett Veatch about. Before we do that, Sean, I want to appreciate you for joining us and helping us break down this pick. We will catch up with you tomorrow, man.
No doubt. I would gladly step out. The next guest is tremendous. I'm a fan of hers. Let's go Chiefs.
Yes, our next fan. I don't know if you could find a bigger Chiefs fan, let alone one that has the career that she has had. As we welcome on super fan for the Kansas City Chiefs, Melissa Etheridge. Melissa, how are we doing tonight?
Woo! We're doing. God, it's so great watching this draft. It's just so just feels so good. It takes my mind off everything, and you guys are rocking it. I could listen to you all night, and I actually do listen to you all night. So really, you guys are really rocking it, and I feel great. I love this that we got an offensive tackle. You know, you always want to protect the king, Mr. Patrick Mahomes, and it's just, it feels great. And the running back, I was so excited last night when they got the running back because. I don't know. It was an interesting feeling winning the Super Bowl and then rolling into a draft this time, knowing so many players are coming back and just looking forward to next year. Man, this year.
It's so exciting. I'm waiting for
Pioneers, Melissa. LHS, baby.
LHS.
High school in the state of Kansas, one of the most prestigious high schools in the Chiefs Kingdom. But what's awesome is when I study tying in these 2 Super Bowls 50 years apart, you talked about how your dad was really the one that got you rolling as a Chiefs fan. What about that, and how much of that was going through your mind when you saw confetti fall on your team's head in Miami?
Oh, it was even before that. When we won the AFC, championship game, that brought me to my knees right there. It was, the Super Bowl was just icing on the cake. But that point, because for so many, I lost my father about 28 years ago, and way too young. And he was a really athletic guy. He was the athletic director at LHS for a while. He had coached the basketball team. He was just a great athlete, and he really taught me about it. And I remember when I was about 8, 9 years old, he walked me through what football was. He taught me everything about it, and just instilled this love in me. And so every year, that's one thing we would always talk about is Chiefs, 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 Chiefs. And I kept up with my mother. We would. It's just, I can't help it. I can't not talk about it. My kids make all kinds of fun of me, but it's just, it's in the blood, especially around Kansas and Missouri, especially that the Kansas City Chiefs organization, because it feels, and it's always felt like the area, which is just, it's good, hardworking people that love a good game and love to get excited. And man, when we won that AFC, when we just came back so many times to every single time, it just, I mean, my kids and everybody were like, oh no, is mom going to be okay? And then when they came through, it was just amazing. It just doesn't get any better than that.
We talk about it all the time with Mitch and I about how Chiefs fans and Chiefs Kingdom, it's generational. It's passed on from grandparents to parents to kids, and that's what just makes it a little bit deeper, a little bit more special. So when things like the AFC title happen, you don't just celebrate for you. You think about the people that allowed you and helped you and developed you into a fan, and thinking about what they would feel like if they were able to share that moment with you.
Oh, that's exactly it. Oh, I so went there with my dad. I just totally went there with my dad. And then, my kids, I say, okay, who are we rooting for? They say, okay, the Chiefs or anyone that's playing the Raiders. I'm like, yes, that's exactly it.
I gotta ask, so Melissa, when's the Clyde Edwards-Helaire song gonna come out? Because I see the equipment behind you. We know that you've been singing and doing your best to try to spread the love with everything that people have got going on in their lives right now, that we all got going on. When's the Clyde Edwards-Helaire song coming?
Like, how am I going to rhyme anything with? I can barely say it. But I love his story so much. I love, and I think that the guys, Brett Veatch and Coach, I think they all really do look at the person and how they fit into this organization, and it's such leadership. And I know the pick the linebacker pick was kind of, Will Gay. A lot of people were worried about the off-field stuff, but I think this organization takes guys like that, and I think they see the, what's there and what they can do and mold. Because we've held together a lot of these guys and really seen them change and come around, and I think that's what makes Gay such a great pick.
Melissa, you've won 2 Grammys, a brilliant career as a singer and as a songwriter. You're in the Hollywood Walk of Fame. But I got to ask you.
Always wanted a Heisman, but never happened. Go ahead.
When you got the chance to sing the national anthem at Arrowhead Stadium before an AFC championship game, where does that rank in all these lists of accomplishments?
Oh, that's top 5. Maybe top 2. It's maybe just underneath singing a duet with Bruce Springsteen. It's right there. But it was, and that it was 0 degrees or whatever it was. It was frighteningly so cold that time. But it's such an honor for one to be in Arrowhead is just an experience, and then to be part of that. And then, oh man, we got so close to that game. That was a tough one. That was hard. I remember leaving that stadium and the feeling that everyone had. It was like, it was right there, and we're good. We started right then. We're going to be back next year, and we certainly were. And that's why people asked, "Are you going to go to the game?" I said, "Man, I want to watch at home. I want that experience, and I just love seeing Kansas City just embrace it all."
I can attest to that. I think one of my favorite things, not to be exaggerating about it, but I remember when you sang the national anthem, I remember thinking, she's this absolute legend, and she is completely cheesing just singing the national anthem right now at Arrowhead with everything she's done. Like, this is awesome. Like, that is a pure fan coming out and being like that. How did I get down on this field moment? I grew up, up in the stands watching these games. It was awesome.
You know it. Absolutely. And I was honored.
Melissa, we've got. It seems like we're done for today. Although you never know with Brett Veatch, he may move up. But what other positions they've gone? Obviously, the linebacker. They got the running back yesterday. Offensive line. What else are you thinking? I know you pay attention. I know you're reading. I know you're doing all your work.
Well, I don't. I struggle with jumping onto the, oh my God, we need a cornerback. Oh my God, that sort of emergency feeling that you get, but then you think, okay, we won the Super Bowl. We did okay. I kind of come as a mom. I think maybe it is. I like the offensive line to be really, really strong and healthy. That's why I really like the offensive tackle. But I certainly, whatever Brett is thinking, I'm sure is great. But it'd be great to get another cornerback. I think maybe.
Yeah,
Melissa,
Brett Veatch.
What's cool as we see Stone Street, we see Riggle, Brad Pitt. I mean, went viral. Like, how about those Chiefs? Mm-hmm. You get a lot of conversation now with entertainers, particularly with Mahomes being the quarterback. Now your team kind of has the attention of more people than most.
Just going to drop the name again. Brad Pitt and I, a few years ago, would watch a lot of Chiefs games. He would come over, and we really enjoyed back in the Dante Hall time. But there is nothing like wearing this hat out in the world right now. I tell you, it is a conversation starter. Either they're, because I live in Southern California, so either they're Raiders fans that are like, and they feel horrible, or it's actually a lot of people who have become Kansas City Chiefs fans, and some people are just like, hey, congratulations. I mean, and it's so funny because I take it so personally. It's like, yes, my team did this. Yes, I'm taking the congratulations. But the celebrity group of Chiefs fans are really tight. We really, and we love Kansas City. And it's my favorite people are, in the entertainment industry are the ones that come from the Midwest and especially around Kansas and Missouri. So I do my best to represent.
We know Chiefs Kingdom is spreading worldwide as Patrick Mahomes took over Tom Brady as selling the most jerseys and most apparel of any player in the National Football League. He's 24 years old, and he is our guy. So it's a whole lot of fun. Melissa, we appreciate you for taking the time to join us. Please stop by anytime and enjoy the rest of tonight and tomorrow.
Anytime. You guys are rocking it. Thank you so much. Go Chiefs.
Pioneer pride. Pioneer pride.
Pioneer.
That is legend and super fan for the Kansas City Chiefs, Melissa Etheridge. Mitch, as we wind down this show and tonight's draft before we head into Saturday, we got another long day ahead tomorrow, a couple more live shows tomorrow as well. And we're going to have Brett Veatch join us hopefully here really soon before we finish up this show. But what are you excited to just ask Brett and to find out about? What do you need to know tonight before you lay your head on that pillow?
I really want to get into Willie Gay Jr. a little bit. There's a lot to unpack there from a positive standpoint. And just when you get a chance to he has a chance, BJ, to me, to be a generational kind of player just because of what he does and how he does it. And then the athleticism that you got with these first two picks. And then obviously what he saw in Niang and just how much of Coach Patterson and TCU's ability to prepare a player for the NFL. Those are the things I'm going to ask him.
I'm excited to see once we get to camp and you kind of see it all come to fruition. But you talk about Willie Gay Jr. I'm excited to see just his personality and how it meshes because it could be one of those perfect things. This guy is an energy giver. This guy is a loud he's going to let you know how he feels when he's out on the field. And nothing against our current linebackers, but they don't have those personalities. They're a little more quiet. When we talk about guys like Anthony Hitchens and Damian Wilson and even Reggie Ragland when he was here, they weren't those like fiery type guys. When you flip on the tape of Willie Gay Jr., he's jumping around, he's yelling and screaming, he's having some fun out on the field. And I'm curious to see how that personality meshes with guys like Frank Clark, who bring, and you see the mic'd up version, the PC related versions that were allowed to be put out there that fans could watch. But Frank Clark gets after it. We know Tyrann Mathieu gets out of it. And now you've got a guy on the back end, you got a guy on the front, and now you get a guy on the second level that brings that same amount of energy. I'm excited to see how those three guys kind of play off each other once we get into the games.
I can't wait till 65 TPT. We should it's against the rules. We should mic up three guys. If you had Willie Gay mic'd up with Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu, oh my gosh.
You'd never be able to listen to any of it.
And 3 lines of audio and just let it keep. That I'd pay money for that.
Anna's over here shaking her head because she's just going to be like, beep, beep, beep. You can do like the bad lip reading and just take all the audio out and just change it. And it would be entertaining just based on the inflections and the stuff that you knew they were obviously saying. But as we say, we are getting ready for Brett Veatch, so make sure you stay tuned in as he's going to come on and help us figure out what they saw in Willie Gay Jr. and also in TCU right tackle Lucas Niang. And I can't get past the 3 penalties and 2,000 snaps for Lucas Niang, Mitch, and also the fact that he didn't give up a sack in a spread offensive system.
Yeah, BJ, when you study Niang, check what he did. They played Ohio State. He had to go up against Chase Young and Nick Bosa, both. Okay, that's the 18 Buckeyes of Ohio State. And in my notes, it talks about how he had a great showing against those two guys. If you want to evaluate NFL potential, see how you do against Nick Bosa. There's a chance for this guy. And again, not have to, you can go big packages. We see tackle over tackle. Coach does that a lot. He'll go unbalanced. And so having a guy like this and a young guy that can play and move people around, and with a football IQ, that's the other thing in my notes. He's got a great football IQ, which think how smart our lineman is. What coach say? It's like the smartest offensive line maybe in the history of the NFL. Like we got doctors and Rhodes Scholars and culinary artists. So you got another guy with a good IQ coming into the room.
Yeah, I think it's going to be one of the first questions that he's asked about stepping into that room with a guy like Mitch Schwartz and a guy like Eric Fisher, who's, the number 1 overall pick. He's had a lot of eyes on him throughout his entire career. And then obviously with Mitch Schwartz just being one of the best right tackles in football, pretty much his entire career. But again, I want to ask him also just the personal stuff, not even the on-field stuff, as I'm looking through some of the draft guides here. Again, born in New York City before his family moved to Switzerland for 2 years and then moving back into the States in 2003. Fluent. He carries dual citizenship, and he's fluent in French. Started playing football in the 4th grade. This is going to be good. This is another one of those picks that maybe he competes for a guard spot. Maybe, as you said, he shows some of that positional flexibility that he didn't necessarily do in college. Maybe they didn't ask him to. Maybe he didn't have to do. Starting all those games at right tackle. See if he gets any reps at guard. But definitely one of those guys with his athleticism at 6'6", 315 pounds. It's definitely going to be put in a good position. One of those foundational pieces over the next 3 to 5 years.
You know what? Andy Heck's a really smart guy too. Former first-round pick himself. His son is still on the board in this draft. Yep. But imagine in an offensive line meeting room, because who else is fluent in French? Louis Duvernay Tardif.
That's right.
It's French Quebec. They've got their own little spin on it. But now all of a sudden you got 2 guys that are just chattering away in French. I can't wait to see Heck's face. I won't see it. Ask about it. And then also Fisher's face. Like, what are we doing here? It'll be like being in the French embassy or something. But
my mind's
2 guys on the offensive line can speak French.
Yeah, my mind is just going with all the content ideas that we could do. I'm here for a sit down where they try to teach Eric Fisher, Austin Ryder, and some of those guys up front, try to teach them French.
That'd be great.
I'm here for this, and we're around these guys, so we know their personality. I'm here for that. I bet Mitch Schwartz could figure it out really quickly because that's just how Mitch Schwartz is. But I want to see Austin Ryder and Eric Fisher start learning some French.
Or if he tries to teach Mahomes, he'll have it down by noon, because then he'll go, yeah, I can speak French.
He already knows French.
Sure, Mahomes can speak French. I mean, they'll start doing audibles in French. I mean, we're truly the world's team now.
All right, let's get a comment from the comment section. Let us know your draft grades. Let us know how you feel so far. The Chiefs have picked up 3 guys, a linebacker, offensive tackle, and a running back. And the one thing about all 3 of those guys, Mitch, they're all extremely athletic for their positions. And that Lucas Niang, one of the more athletic right tackles or tackles in this entire draft class. And then obviously Willie Gay Jr., we've talked about him being in the 99th percentile for most of those athletic profile numbers from the scouting combine. And then Clyde Edwards-Helaire, his lateral agility is special. There's a lot of comparisons that we saw out there last night to Darren Sproles, a guy that you and I have watched play a lot. I'm the same age. I grew up playing football against him in high school. And to see Tank do that, he ran away a little bit more, I think, than Clyde Edwards-Helaire. He's probably a little more between the tackles guy, but definitely excited to see all 3 of these guys when they get out there. But yeah, in the comment section, let us know your draft grades. We will share them on air.
It's fun to watch the tape of Edwards-Helaire because you'll see backers go, he was just here. I just saw him. He was just here. And if he doesn't have the blazing 4.3 speed, he's got 4.3 quickness and his ability to move. And the same thing with Willie Gay Jr. In the fact that he can just, in his recognition, and there's some things he's going to have to work on. He can sometimes overreact. It's the same knock that was on Murray of Oklahoma. And that's what K-State did to him, actually, was get him involved in a lot of misdirection. So it's one of those things of just sometimes even slowing down a little.
Did you got some breaking news? I think Andy Reid and Brett Veatch have entered our comment section because Chiefs Hawks gives us an A+ for the draft. I think that was probably Andy Reid. And then Wolfpack, A++++++ for this draft. And that's obviously Brett Veatch. You think that they're on the phone working about picks. I think they're in our YouTube chat room letting us know how they feel about their draft so far.
I think it's the biggest priority they have is to think what's going on in this chat room right now.
They want to know what the voice is thinking, just like the kingdom.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about tomorrow here some too, but let's just don't forget Tyreek Hill was a 5th-round pick, right? Think of what they did last year with Darwin Thompson in the 6th. I mean, it's this thing's not over. It's got a long way to go and a lot of excitement tomorrow.
Yeah, let's look through. So you talk about tomorrow as we're waiting for Brett Veatch here. Again, we're going to get a chance to talk to him for 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long he ends up having, to break down the last couple of picks for the Chiefs in Willie Gay Jr. and Lucas Niang. But Mitch, looking at some of the best players available, I'm on the ESPN site, just a couple of those quarterbacks. You're curious when those guys were going to go. Jake Fromm and Jacob Eason, 2 quarterbacks from big programs. Probably couldn't be a whole lot more different in styles. And watching them, Jake Fromm is like a lot of those Georgia quarterbacks, very similar, like an Aaron Murray back in the day. Just a winner, guy who wins a lot of football games, accurate, smart, all those things, limited physically. And the Jacob Eason just has an absolute cannon as a quarterback and a guy that you're going to want to develop, but somebody who would be a whole lot of fun with whatever team he ends up going to in the preseason. And then Adam Troutman, that tight end that we mentioned earlier, Amik Robertson, the 5'8", 180-pound scrappy cornerback out of Louisiana Tech, and then guys like Trey Adams, left tackle out of Washington, Terrell Burgess out of Utah, Troy Dye, another outside linebacker out of Oregon, although the Chiefs may be out of that market after taking Willie Gay Jr., and then the guy that I mentioned earlier, Antonio Gandy Golden, just one of those big physical receivers, a developmental guy. There's still some good players on the board.
There is, and I think that the Rams just took Burgess, by the way, just took him. And so I thought he would go before now, BJ, but he's not there. But other guys are. The Brooks kid out of Maryland, I know, highly thought of. You mentioned the corners are still there. There's good linebackers still there, although there was a run on them recently because Davion Taylor now gone, Alex Highsmith out of Charlotte gone. But, I mean, you got edge guys there too, still there. That are in position. So, yeah, there's still plenty of options left.
Yeah, one of the more intriguing players that's available right now is Boise State's Curtis Weaver, a guy that was one of those kind of tweener guys, don't really know what position he may play at 6'2", 265, but you just look at production. And I think a lot of scouts, when you talk about production matters, you look at height, weight, speed, athletic traits, all those different things, techniques. But at the end of the day, do you go out and you bring the opposing quarterback down when you're coming off the edge as being one of your main responsibilities? And that's something Curtis Weaver has done throughout his entire career. And you just stack up box score analytics, box score scouting. Curtis Weaver would have been gone by now. Yeah,
I love him. And again, a situational type player, but hey, that's what the league has become in many ways. The other thing is, and to review, some people probably joined on here late, is the interior offensive linemen. There's just a bunch of them left. I don't think the
Wisconsin kid.
Harris, Ishmael, Veatch from Wisconsin still there, Darrell Williams from Mississippi State. And then all the guards, for the most part, are still there, including John Simpson. Some had a first-round grade on him. So, again, an opportunity tomorrow for the Chiefs.
Let's go through some more of the comments from our YouTube comment section. Edward Hanauer says, he reminds me of a young Priest Holmes. I think Daniel Jeremiah came out and said that as well. That would be news to a lot of Chiefs fans. Hopefully, Lucas Niang can fit the mold of the offensive line that Priest Holmes was running behind during his career in Kansas City. Used Boats TV said, who do you think will make the most impact in regard to the picks? Mitch, I'll ask you. Maybe next year. Who do you think has a bigger impact so far of the guys that have been selected?
The most impact right away?
Yeah.
I think Edwards-Helaire, just because, I mean, that seems like you can put together a package for him, even if it's 10 or 15 plays, where day one he could be immediate. But Willie Gay Jr. is not far behind that.
Yeah.
He's going to, and you got a good point. I mean, he could be a 4-core special teams guy right out of the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, just a guy can block a kick, make a block in space to get Hardman loose. Those two guys both, I would almost Edwards-Helaire a little bit higher, but both those guys can make a first-week impact.
Yeah, it looks like Dayton tight end Adam Troutman just got drafted by the New Orleans Saints. So it's one of the tight ends off the board, number 105 overall to the Saints. And Mitch, I'd love to disagree with you and just make good. I think that's good talk radio. Is that what they say? Or I just disagree with you just for the sake of disagreeing with you. But I think you're right. I think it's Clyde Edwards-Helaire. We had a question from the Kingdom Kids group earlier today from Braylon, and she asked, who is going to score the most touchdowns next season is, I believe, the question. And we said, Tyreek Hill and Damian Williams tied last year with 7 touchdowns for the most. And I'm just a prisoner of the moment. I took Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I said, I think he's going to end up with more than 7 touchdowns. I may be out to lunch on that, and I'm just living in the moment right now. But you watch those highlights and that lateral agility, it just kind of get excited. I'm not going to lie.
I don't know. I'm in the moment of seeing Mahomes run that 27-yarder against the Titans. I didn't mind that play. Just don't get hurt. Yeah. But the cool thing about this team, she has a great question. I love our Chiefs Kids Club. They got some awesome questions. But the neat thing about this team, they don't care. They can just spread them. The best teams aren't necessarily the ones where a guy's got 15 touchdowns and everybody else has 1. The real key, and this is where Edwards-Helaire, I've said this on shows throughout the day, he'll really help in the red zone because he's another guy to create pressure on the 53-yard width of the field, meaning all those guys can score. And so, hey, if they all set with 7 apiece, then I'm good. It's just an unselfish team, and that's a big part of the success of this team.
Yeah, we got another question from the comment section from Sheridan Curtis. And again, please, as we're waiting for Brett Veatch, please send us as many comments and questions as you can. You've got Mitch Holthus, voice of the Chiefs right now, answering your questions. And the question is from Sheridan Curtis saying, what are we going to do with all these running backs? We just picked up DeAndre Washington, drafted another one. What are we going to do with these guys, Mitch?
Use them all. Andy Reid's, think about Damian Williams and Clyde Edwards-Helaire being on the field at the same time with Travis Kelce, and then take your pick, any one of the 4x100 meter relay guys. And now at some point, you're going to have a matchup advantage. There's no team that has that many guys to cover all those guys. And that's where Andy Reid and his imagination comes into play. We all want an RB1. We want to pick an RB1 because that's a category on our fantasy team. But, hey, just go with the flow of what coach wants to do with them.
All right, we got a couple of updates from Lucas Niang's conference call going on right now with the media, saying the Chiefs did ask him about the possibility of playing guard. You know what? I could read the out from Matt Derrick and everybody on the conference call, or we can just ask the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs. Brett Veatch is joining us right now. Brett, an exciting Friday for Chiefs fans based on the comment section. We are seeing people are fired up about what you guys were able to do. Want to ask you about both those picks. Let's start with the linebacker, Willie Gay Jr. How excited were you that he was available when you guys picked, and what led to that decision? Nope. Brett, we don't have audio on you right now, so we'll continue talking through that. But, I think, we'll be right back with Brett Veatch as soon as we get that audio figured out. But, Mitch, what are you fired? You got that look like you're fired up to ask him a question. What's the next question you want to ask Brett Veatch? What are you excited to figure out as far as what the team did today?
Just how many ways they can use him. How many, when they were setting down to evaluate him, how many ways can you use Willie Gay Jr. in this defense? Can he line up inside in a sub? Can he play in a base? And can he play outside in a base? Is he a Will? Is he Sam? And so, shoot, I mean, the guy looks like a strong safety sometimes. And so that's how I'm going to go with my first.
4'6" at 240 pounds. And now that we do have a second, I can give – I can give this update now that we've got a couple of seconds. Matt Derrick is telling us, based on what Lucas Niang is saying during his conference call, that the Chiefs did ask Lucas Niang about the possibility of playing guard, and that he told him that he's willing to play anywhere, which is what every player should say. And then obviously, and then coming off the hip surgery on his labrum last month, said he had his final rehab work from that surgery last month, and said he'll be 100% ready to go whenever he's to get the pads on, assuming that means about training camp. So good to know he missed the second half of the season, but that everything seems to be going well and he's healthy, especially just real quick before Brett comes back on. When you have a player coming off an injury, this is just another one of those things. You talk about him all the time. And Chiefs Vice President of Sport and Performance, Rick Burkholder, and his whole staff. When you've got a player coming off an injury like that, going through his rehab, you have to lean on your guys like that. We know Brett has. Probably ask him about that as well.
Yeah, and the challenge is we're in this stay-at-home protocol, so things have been more challenging for that athletic training staff, and they're doing the best job they can within these stay-at-home parameters. But again, the fact that Lucas Niang does not have, you're not sitting there going, man, we got to have him week one. We got to get him ready to go. No, he can ease into it, not just from the football side, but getting back from this torn hip labrum that he had in November.
Yeah, I think we talk about having such a deep roster, and you say a luxury pick is normally explained as, you had a running back and you didn't really need one. You had a gadget wide receiver, you didn't really need one, or how the board plays to you. I think it's a luxury pick that you're able to use a third-round pick on a tackle that you wouldn't necessarily, unless he mix in and plays guard, you don't necessarily need to play right away. And figuring out the contract situation for the two starting tackles for the Chiefs right now, as both Mitch Schwartz and Eric Fisher would enter the last year of their current contracts next year, to see how it all plays out. But it's a luxury pick that they're able to take a tackle that maybe needs some work on his technique, coming out of that spread system that TCU runs and what they do, but has all the athletic traits and obviously has the mental acuity and the mental preparation and all, checks all those boxes that they look for as an offensive lineman. Again, if we draft an offensive lineman, Andy Reid checked him out as his ability to love football and just do the dirty things that he loves in his offensive lineman. That he checked all those boxes.
What's exciting too to see, I call them the crockpot guys. We got several guys the fans have forgotten about, and that's what's interesting too about the protocol we're in now, is we don't have the OTAs like they've been in the past, and many times the offensive line gets the most benefit out of those generally because they do a lot of experimenting with those guys. But Jackson Barton, Greg Sanat, Martinez Rankin's coming back from the injury, got hurt in the Tennessee game and was playing really well prior to that injury. There's just a bunch of guys we don't think about. Algretti coming in from rookie year to second year. What happens to their development? And there's good potential young depth and good potential young starters in the future from that group.
Mitch, not that I need to give you any more of a reason to go watch OLDL one-on-one drills up at on the campus of Missouri Western State University at training camp, but you got a young tackle going up against a guy like Frank Clark, who's worth it's most of the days it's free. So I wouldn't say the price of admission, just using it as a slogan, but worth the price of admission to go watch Frank Clark and OLDL one-on-ones. And I am here for him going up against Lucas Niang. And I don't want to say it's going to be that welcome to the NFL moment, but Lucas Niang is going to go up against the closer, the Shark, whatever nicknames have you given him? They always rotate.
Hey, it was classic to see Fish go at him last year. Because Frank gave notice right away in OTAs, hey, Fish, I am here. And then Fish said, yeah, I am too.
They made each other better. Yeah, they definitely made each other better getting after it. And that goes back to even before training camp and they had their pads on. Talking about Eric Fisher and Frank Clark. That goes to 8 OTAs and that first day with Frank Clark screaming, this ain't last year to them. But we're continuing to wait for Chiefs general manager Brett Veatch to help us kind of break down and give his thoughts on the two newest additions for the Chiefs that they drafted tonight in Mississippi State linebacker Willie Gay Jr., who they took with the 63rd overall pick, and then Lucas Niang, the offensive tackle from Texas Christian University that they took with the 96th overall pick. And Mitch, we've talked a lot about the players who are available, the top guys who are available. And as we buy a little bit more time here, I want to ask you about some of the local guys. We talked a lot about Isaiah Simmons, but there's a couple of defensive tackles that played at the University of Nebraska that I remember watching play in high school, and the Davis twins, Carlos and Khalil Davis, who played at Blue Springs. I remember watching them and Elijah Lee, who ended up going and playing at K-State. And was with the 49ers for the Super Bowl and then now is with the Detroit Lions. Those guys, it was Caleb Pruitt, who played at K-State. It was Dalvin Warmack, who played at K-State. The Davis twins and Elijah Lee at Blue Springs High School. 5 D1, top D1 guys. And 3 of those guys are going to be playing in the NFL. We're going up against Lee Summit High School and Drew Lock. And that's the game that I went and watched those guys play in high school. And that was one of those games I'm never going to forget. But it's going to be cool to see Khalil and Carlos Davis, 2 local kids, going to get drafted hopefully sometime tomorrow. If not, they'll get picked up by somebody. But a couple of defensive tackles from the Kansas City area are going to have a chance to play in the NFL as well.
Yeah, and we'll have this as a topic tomorrow. And on Sunday, we're going to do a wrap-up show on Sunday afternoon at 1 o'clock. But there's even guys like the punter from Olathe Northwest. K-State's punter last year was all Big 12 caliber and Niang. Now he's probably going to be a free agent with somebody, a rookie free agent. But that's a guy from Kansas City that could pop up and right away be somebody's starting punter next year. He's that good. He's got a lot of Colquitt in him. It's cool to see these local guys and even some of the smaller town guys that emerge at times. But those Twins. I mean, I'm telling you, we kind of drift sometimes on the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th rounds, and we don't have a 6th or 7th. But stay right in there because of the depth of this draft. I think what we thought today was there was a lot of first-round picks in the second, a lot of usual second-round picks in the third, and that carries on. Usual third-round or fourth-round picks in the 4th and 5th tomorrow.
Yeah, and you mentioned it. We've got the show on Sunday, and then we're going to fire this live stream back up tomorrow at 11 a.m. I've got a couple more special guests, and Ari Wolf, the play-by-play guy for Chiefs preseason, one of our favorites, a great dude. I've been in touch with him the past week. He is going to join us to give his thoughts, and I'm excited to get Ari's perspective as somebody who covers the league as a whole from the outside, had a chance to come in and kind of see how the sausage is made behind the scenes, and then we go out and win a Super Bowl, and he gets to kind of see from his perspective, excited to kind of hear what he thought kind of popping in to Chiefs Kingdom and seeing it from the outside point of view. And then I know one of our favorite players of all time, guy that I grew up, sitting in section 338 with my dad watching make plays, Dante Hall. The X Factor is also going to join us on the pre-show tomorrow with myself and Matt McMullen, as Mitch will join us afterwards as we wrap up the final couple of picks, unless they trade back and ended up with more. Chiefs have picks in the 4th, one pick in the 4th and one pick in the 5th round tomorrow.
I love about Dante Hall, he's so excited about the current situation and current Chiefs. There's so much pride in our former players and what's happening right now, and I love that because many times there can be a feeling of even jealousy or like, well, hey, when I played, Dante Hall might be as excited as anybody about what's going on right now. When he watches McCole Hardman, he watches Tyreek Hill, and he critically evaluates them, but he gets excited. And so to have him on will bring some energy.
Yeah, this guy that you and I had a chance to spend some time with down in Mexico City. He was fired up down there. I think he's fired up. I think he's constantly fired up, which goes along with energy giver. I think that's what we call them. As we take a look right now, we've been mentioning some of these guys earlier, some other names on here as well, and the best players available. And again, this is according to ESPN and Amik Robertson, that cornerback that we talk about. If we don't draft him, I want to show some of the highlights. I'm going to, put our producer Anna Topkin on the spot and see how quickly she can pull up these highlights of Amik Robertson from Louisiana Tech, if we have any, now that I'm thinking about it. But he's a whole lot of fun to watch. Shaking her head. Apparently no highlights of Amik Robinson. We'll rock that tomorrow if he's not selected, just because he's that much fun. But some other players, Mitch. You're talking about Sadiq Charles, the tackle out of LSU. The Chiefs just did take a tackle. The outside linebacker from Appalachian State. We saw the running back Darrington Evans get selected a little bit ago. But Akeem Davis-Gaither is one of those run and hit linebackers. Again, the Chiefs end up going with Willie Gay Jr., but another one of those guys, and Akeem Davis-Gaither, who a lot of people thought could already be selected. And then Bryce Hall is still there, that cornerback we talk about, former teammate of Juan Thornhill, and one of those guys, kind of that ball hawking safety, but also will stick his nose in there and hit somebody.
And then there's the line of scrimmage defensive end guys that come to mind. I don't think James Lynch of Baylor is gone yet. Unless he's gone, I don't think he's gone yet. Another guy, and this is kind of a local twist to it, and he played at Tulsa, Travis Gibson, whose brother played basketball at K-State. He's from Cedar Hill, Texas. Remember Thomas Gibson, the big, large, round mound of rebound guy. Yeah. His brother was a really good defensive end at Tulsa. Now, that's different than with Willie Gay Jr. You're talking about an Alex Okafor type who can play opposite Frank Clark and give depth there. Remember, Emmanuel Ogbah left in free agency to go to the Miami Dolphins. And so there is a void there of someone who can play for Spags, depending on down and distance and situation, on the line of scrimmage and, put their hand in the ground. And last year we saw a terrific rotation there. It really had a big impact on the season, particularly when there were injuries to Okafor and Ogbah. And that's, we were able to get Terrell Suggs at the time. But some of these young defensive ends that can play on the line of scrimmage are still there too, and could be a possibility.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody who's sticking with us as we continue to buy time, as hopefully they get the audio stuff figured out with Chiefs General Manager Brett Veatch, who's trying to join us and give us his thoughts. We always know that he's excited to tell us about his picks. This is kind of like Christmas for him and his staff. But one of the things, Mitch, that I want to ask you, let's just get weird here for a little bit. Again, we appreciate everybody for staying with us. Who are three players you're most looking forward to seeing their development going into next season? Not guys who had big impacts necessarily or big production, but we're around the team every day. So we know this roster. We know these guys better than anyone else. Who are guys that you're excited to see this offseason? Not necessarily guys who can go out and, make 100 tackles or catch for, 1,000 yards, but who are some of those names that could start to pop a little bit at training camp who are going to surprise the people who fight for roster spots?
Well, or develop the year 1 to year 2 development too. And that's why coach is so good in OTAs. Now we're doing the virtual OTAs now, but man, he's so efficient. I said no wasted days. We get ready to win with those OTAs. But,
you hear me?
It's, a guy like Rashad Fenton, who can, and year 1 to year 2, and Colin Saunders. And we got him. We were getting ready to show highlights of like Mount Carmel High School Red Tornado football if you weren't going to get here. So
we're going to start playing trivia games with each other, but we appreciate everybody who's stuck with us. And as Chiefs General Manager Brett Veatch joins us. Brett, as I mentioned earlier, Chiefs fans are excited about the couple of picks that you made. Can you just tell us what went into the decision to select linebacker Willie Gay Jr. out of Mississippi State?
Yeah, I mean, first off, all the credit goes to my scouting staff, man. We had a really good plan this morning. We talked yesterday, BJ, about getting together and where this process is, and we identified guys we liked, and we were sweating the Willie Gay one out a little bit because he was a guy that we targeted as soon as the clock started on today's draft. You really look at this guy, had he gone back to school and stays healthy and plays a full season. I mean, this guy, you're looking at a first-round pick here. Super athletic, has a lot of versatility. This guy can really play any three of the positions. If you guys go back and watch the 18 Iowa game, he played some Sam linebacker, and just watch the job he did against Iowa up front. This guy is super talented, super athletic, and we're obviously extremely excited to get him in the mixer in Kansas City.
Brett, he runs a 4.46. I mean, it's crazy for a linebacker. How many different ways can you use him in Spags' scheme?
Well, listen, I'll defer that to Coach Spags and his creativity, but certainly, from the get-go, seeing him play on tape and watching what he did at Combine. I mean, his Combine workout was one of the best workouts I've ever seen. But then again, there's the tape too, and we're certainly a team or tape-focused personnel staff. So, but when you see tape, like I mentioned, the 18 Iowa game and the bowl game and the Louisville bowl game this year and the Alabama game a couple years ago, and then you see the Combine, and then you think this kid hasn't played a lot of football yet, and you look at the numbers and the workout and all that stuff. I mean, certainly there won't be a lack of ways to use that being the game, sideline to sideline, and even his ability to blitz. And also one of the things that Coach House and I talked about is the guy's a turnover machine. He always has a knack for punching the ball loose and creating turnover. So, again, he's just a guy that we think can do a lot of things, and we're really excited to get him in the mix there.
Brett, one of the things that always jumps out about these players when you watch the highlights on film is just the energy and the passion that they play the game with. I had a chance to ask Willie Gay Jr. when he did his conference call earlier, but as somebody, as you construct this roster and you work with the coaching staff and the personalities and finding guys who mesh well together, and especially when you're talking about a guy who plays with a lot of emotion, a lot of passion, for him to get in that locker room and play on that field with guys like Frank Clark and Tyrann Mathieu, who also play with a lot of emotion. Just how do you guys as a staff go through and talk about those types of things and bringing in that kind of personality into that room and figuring out how they can mesh together?
Yeah, it's one of the key things we look for. I mean, guys it's part of who they are. And I mean, Willie Gay is all about football, loves the game, loves the process, is invested in that. And it's a big part of what we do. And I think there was a reason, as I mentioned before, why we went out and got Frank Clark last year and Tyrann Mathieu, because that style of play is infectious. And once you get one of those guys, it trickles down to the next and to the next and to the next. But, now you bring another guy in here like Willie, who's wired just like that. And the defense is going to fly around, create turnovers, and provide more opportunities for offense. And, that's certainly an exciting thought.
Brett, how big was the interview with Willie in the fact that, people know he got suspended with the academic and 10 other players. He wasn't by himself. But how big was the interview process with him in trying to figure out what makes Willie tick?
Yeah, listen, the interview process is big with all the players that we draft, because we certainly want them to be certainly productive for our team on the field, but also in the community. And we've had a lot of time, and Willie was a guy that we certainly done a lot of work on. But everybody talked to loves the kid. it's hard to find anybody saying bad about Willie. Made some mistakes in college and got suspended for him. But when you talk about the person, there's, in our mind, there's a difference between, repetitive behavior and then just people who are good guys that kind of made a mistake here or there. And this is a good kid. Teammates love him. Coaches love him. I know Coach mentioned in the conversation that we had with Coach Mullen, and it's always cool when you get on a phone call with a coach and they start smiling and joking right away. But everybody loved the kid, and I think our fans and the people that meet him soon, will see that and feel that right away.
Yeah, he was asked about, he was open about everything and owned up to it and wasn't trying to make any excuses. So, that obviously went over well. If he's saying that to the media, he's obviously saying that to you guys. Now let's move on and talk about the next pick that you guys had, 96 overall in TCU. I'll say offensive tackle, because that's what he played, all on the right side. But what stood out to you about Lucas Niang?
Yeah, Lucas, guy that we were a little surprised fell just because of his athleticism. And I know both you guys crank a lot of tape, but another good tape for Lucas Niang would be the opener, I believe, 2 years ago against Ohio State. You get to see him line up versus Bosa and Chase Young, and he did a pretty good job. He's a real flexible guy through the core. He can bend, he can play guard. Hadn't done a lot of that at TCU, but we certainly feel he can come in, contribute right away at guard, and then have a guy we can develop into tackle as we proceed here. But he's athletic, he's long, and again, smart. So guy can come in right away, take some reps at guard, and then we can certainly develop him at tackle.
Couple questions about him. One, just coming out of that program, Coach Patterson does an awesome job of preparing those guys to play in the NFL. Just that and his technique. And two, I know with Coach and all the offensive linemen, one, just his ability to move. Three, I'll put it out there, it's thought of he's got great football IQ. Those things in consideration, what does he bring?
Well, I think he kind of checks the boxes in all three areas. He's a guy that, you mentioned coming from the TCU program. Certainly those guys know what it's like to get after it. And I think transitioning here to our offensive side and Coach EB, I think will be very similar to the guys that demand a lot and expect a lot. And then our coaches expect our guys that we draft to come in here and play multiple positions and be guys that can move around. It doesn't matter if they have to jump in at guard, jump in at tackle, not just during the week, but even in games. So smart, versatile, and can certainly handle hard coaching.
Yeah, you look at the numbers. Enrolled at TCU as a 17-year-old, started for 3 years. Again, just 3 penalties in nearly 2,000 snaps, and never allowed more than 14 pressures in any season. Brett, it's good stuff on those two guys. I want to ask you just in general on this Friday, did anything in particular surprise you? And then how do you feel about the talent still available as you guys get ready to go into Saturday?
I think, every year is different. I don't know if there were many surprises, but, I go, again, back to the personnel staff I have and the people I'm surrounded with, both on the trade side with Brant Tillis and Chris Shea, and then the personnel side with Mike Berganzi and Tim Terry, Mike Bradway, Ryan Poles, Ryan Nunn. All those guys, we've done such a good job of doing so much work and kind of analyzing the board that when we get in these positions, we're able to make good decisions. And when we were on the clock, both in rounds 2 and 3, there were opportunities to do some different things. But, when you're sitting there with a chance to draft a guy that could potentially be a first-round linebacker next year, and Willie Gay, and have that speed and versatility on the defense, and then you sit there and you think about Pat Mahomes being here for a long time and keep adding really talented and versatile offensive linemen. These two guys are just way too good to pass up.
And what about tomorrow? Now, there's You've mentioned for weeks now just how deep this draft is. I mean, the second round looks like a first round in some years, and it seems like that just kind of keeps pushing down. And we've seen some of the greatest players in this league come out of the 4th, 5th rounds. That's where you're at tomorrow. Not without, you don't have a 6th or 7th, but just globally going into tomorrow, how should the Chiefs Kingdom be ready to roll?
Yeah, well, I think we'll do the same process we did yesterday. I'll have a chance to do a web chat with my personnel staff, and we'll restack the board. And I'm kind of I got the board kind of set up behind me here. I'm just looking at some of the name tags here, but I think that there's some quality at really all these positions here going across the board. It'll just be a matter of us stacking this board, in the way that we think is best for our team, and then just being able to move, probably move up a little tomorrow, just because the numbers start to chip away here. But I think there's guys that will be in position to get, and again, continue to add what is an already a talented roster.
I was going to ask, I should have led with this. Just want to make sure you're okay and that all your technology was working, because you have not made a single trade so far yet. And this is going against everything that we've come to know about what a couple of Thursday and Friday with Brett Veatch in the draft looks like.
Well, staff did a good job of holding me back a few times, because they were a little antsy, but again, when you put in so much time and you look at the board, you look at the numbers and know that, I mean, we're going to get good players here. And, it's a little bit longer wait for me when we're on the clock, because, I have total confidence in the way we do things, both as a personnel staff and as coaching staff, developing players, that when you see a guy, you just want to go get him. But we were able to preserve all our picks. And we even took a few phone calls for teams wanting to trade up and us to trade down. But again, when you have a chance to get a Willie Gay and a Lucas Niang, I mean, those guys are way too valuable. So we'll see how tomorrow rolls, but we're excited about it.
And after the draft, I had a chance to ask you this. We were in with some of the top leaders of the Chiefs Kingdom before the draft started. We had a special Zoom meeting. But I want to ask you how this is going to work, because in this virtual world we're in, we know how crazy that is. Boom, the draft's over, and some of the best players in this league come from not being drafted. How do you organize that in the world you're living in now?
That's probably and I think Mitch, you and I may have spoken about this before, it's probably the one advantage. You always love to have a bunch of picks. The one advantage of maybe not having a 7th round pick will be that we'll have extra time to really focus in on the board, look at our 90-man roster, where we need help, where we have to really attack some of these areas. Because on a traditional year, I mean, you're making calls and you have a bunch of guys right in front of you. You can pass the phone around, do deals. Cap guys can chart the money, what's going out, what's coming in. But the only challenge with the virtual setup will be the coaches and all will be in different areas, and you'll be getting a large volume of calls coming in all at once. It's kind of like being on the clock for 8 picks at once when the free agency starts. So that'll be a little challenging tomorrow. And again, I think looking ahead to tomorrow, I think not having a 7th round pick will allow us to be spending a lot of that time while teams are picking in the last round. We'll be on a virtual chat with our guys, stacking our board, and just being prepared to make moves right after the final pick is turned in.
I got to imagine that's going to be a lot easier calling as a defending world champion. Brett, we appreciate your time for joining us tonight and helping us break down these picks. And we will catch up with you again on Sunday once the draft is over to put kind of a bow and wrap it all up. Again, that show is Sunday at 1 p.m. for everybody watching. Brett, we appreciate your time. Get some rest, and we'll catch up with you tomorrow. Hopefully have another good day.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Have a nice night.
That is Chiefs General Manager Brett Veatch. Mitch, I'm not going to lie. If you would have told me before this draft started that the Chiefs made 3 picks on Thursday and Friday and did not trade them, I don't know if I would have believed you.
Well, did they have a belt around his chair where he couldn't get out of it?
They didn't cut to that part.
Coach
he was
has
like
his
held
arm
down.
Really strategically placed right behind his chair. It's a cool setup. I've got the fridge right behind this, so you can't. So I've got my setup. I think Veatch has got like his treadmill, got to be close, like at 15 and 7.0, right? Because he's got to somehow burn that energy up. But he kind of, I'm not saying he won't make a move tomorrow. He might. But I think one of the things
said they might. You just said it.
On our special thing that we had before the draft started with some of the leaders, and some of our great partners with the Kansas City Chiefs, not having a 7th round pick this year actually becomes an advantage. In the virtual world, think about that time. 7th round picks are valuable, get it. But now, because of the world they're in, all of those guys that he mentioned now start recruiting those potential college free agents. It may give them even a 10, 15, or 20-minute head start on the rest of the league. And that, to me, is one of his most intriguing answers.
It's amazing to me that in the 7th round, the teams don't want to have picks because they want to practice, and the players don't want to get selected because they want to have their opportunity to pick wherever they go. We'll break all of that down to the Chiefs, a 4th and a 5th rounder, although Brett Veatch just said maybe they're going to move up. Maybe it's for a corner. Maybe it's for another defensive. Maybe it's for another guy from the Big 12, wherever they're going to get these guys. It should be a whole lot of fun. We appreciate everybody for watching. And just one last mention that this was brought to you by Park University. In just a few weeks, our world has changed. Now change the way you learn with online classes at Park University. Park has been teaching online for 25 years. Apply now for summer term beginning June 8th. Park University, the official higher education partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Mitch, any parting words before we let everyone go?
Get a quick night's sleep. Last night was kind of quick. And tomorrow we crank up earlier, and it's going to flag in, brother. So, yeah.
I was up watching Clyde Edwards-Helaire highlights for longer than I care to admit. So now everybody can be watching Willie Gay highlights.
Highlights to watch tonight. I've been watching them all night long. I mean, we're going to have DJ on tomorrow, right? And I want DJ to look at this guy and go, is he not you, DJ?
We had DJ on today. Maybe we try to get him on again tomorrow. Tomorrow we got Ari Wolf and Dante Hall.
Oh, we had him on. Okay, my bad. Well,
we got another good day, and then we'll have Voice of the Chiefs. Mitch Holthus is going to come on at the end of the draft to help break down what the Chiefs do tomorrow. As we'll be talking, and Brett Veatch and the staff will be breaking everything down, trying to sign those UDFAs. But thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll fire this thing back up 11 a.m. tomorrow, again, right here on the Chiefs YouTube. We appreciate everybody for watching. We will see you tomorrow.